Welcome to Pro Billionaire. We're glad to have you here. If you're someone who dreams of achieving greatness and rising above your circumstances, you've come to the right place. On this channel you'll discover real-life stories of individuals who started with absolutely nothing, people who came from poverty, faced impossible odds and still became self-made millionaires. These stories are more than just inspiring, they're full of powerful life lessons that can help you grow, push your limits and guide you on your journey to success. Watching these stories will give you the motivation, the mindset and the drive to chase your own dreams. So if you're ready to transform your life, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to tap the bell icon so you never miss a story that could change everything for you. He woke up at 5 a.m. every morning, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. His job at the hardware store barely paid enough to cover rent, and his old car was one repair away from quitting for good. He lived in a tiny one-bedroom apartment that smelled like old carpet and fried food from the neighbors downstairs, and every morning before stepping out into the freezing cold he would look into the cracked mirror above his bathroom sink and whisper the same thing to himself: one day this will all change. His name was Marcus, and there was nothing particularly special about him. He had no fancy degrees, no powerful connections, no family inheritance. What he did have was a deep sense that life had to offer more than what he was experiencing, and even though he was surrounded by people who told him to be realistic, he refused to believe that his destiny was limited to punching a clock and scraping by. On his lunch breaks he would sit behind the store scrolling through websites, reading articles about business, watching interviews with successful people and studying every free resource he could find. He didn't know exactly what he was looking for, but something inside him was hungry for direction. He noticed a pattern among the stories he read. Every successful person had started with almost nothing, but they all had one thing in common: they saw opportunities where others saw nothing. One cold Thursday afternoon something strange happened. An old man came into the store looking for a very specific type of bolt, something the store didn't carry. Marcus, instead of brushing him off, offered to look online and see if he could order it for him. The old man smiled, nodded and gave Marcus a handwritten note with the item details. A few days later, when the item arrived, Marcus called the man to let him know he could pick it up. The man returned that Saturday, thanked him sincerely and paid in cash. Before leaving he paused, turned to Marcus and said, "You're wasted here, kid. You think bigger than this place." Marcus chuckled nervously, but the man didn't smile. Instead he reached into his coat and handed Marcus a card with nothing but a name and a website link. Marcus pocketed it and forgot about it until later that night. That evening, sitting on the floor of his apartment eating microwave noodles, he remembered the card and pulled it from his jeans. He typed in the website and was directed to a simple page with a logo and a login section. Curious, he clicked around until he found an application form with a short description. It was some kind of business mentorship program for aspiring entrepreneurs, completely free but invitation only. Marcus hesitated for a moment, then filled it out without expecting much. 2 weeks passed and nothing happened. Marcus didn't think about it again until one evening he got a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was the same man from the store. He introduced himself as Leonard Grant, a retired investor who now helped people launch their ideas. Marcus was invited to a small workshop in a downtown co-working space with 6 other people. Leonard didn't give many details, just a time, a date and a reminder to come with an open mind. Marcus didn't know what to expect, but when he walked into that room everything started to shift. The walls were covered in whiteboards, charts and sticky notes. A coffee pot bubbled in the corner and a group of strangers greeted him like they had known each other for years. Leonard stood at the front dressed in the same worn coat, smiling like a proud grandfather. He told them that the next 6 weeks would test their beliefs, their discipline and their creativity, and only those who took it seriously would see results. Marcus threw himself into it with everything he had. The first week was all about mindset, breaking through fear and developing clarity. Leonard said the biggest killer of dreams was not failure but hesitation. He made them write down their ideas, no matter how small, and then rip them apart piece by piece to find the ones worth building. One night Marcus scribbled an idea he'd been sitting on for over a year: a mobile service that connected local handymen to people needing quick home repairs. It was nothing revolutionary, but it solved a real problem. Leonard raised an eyebrow when Marcus presented it and said, "Finally something real and useful." The next week they worked on validating ideas, talking to potential customers and creating mock-ups. Marcus walked into hardware stores, grocery lines, parking lots, asking strangers if they'd use an app like his. Some laughed, others ignored him, but a few gave him genuine feedback and encouragement. He kept track of every response, filling notebooks with notes, diagrams and numbers. He worked during the day, attended workshops in the evenings and built wireframes at night using free software on his second-hand laptop. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford. Some days he questioned whether it was worth it, whether someone like him could actually pull this off, but every time doubt crept in. He remembered that cracked mirror and the words he whispered each morning: The program ended with a presentation. Each participant had to pitch their idea to a room full of potential investors, mentors, and former students. The night before, Marcus barely slept. He rehearsed his pitch 20 times in front of his bathroom mirror, adjusting his tone and timing with every pass. When his turn came, he stood on the makeshift stage, palms sweating, knees shaking, and looked out at a room full of strangers. His voice trembled for the first minute, then something clicked and he spoke like he had done it 100 times before. When he finished, there was a long pause. The room remained silent for a moment, and Marcus felt his heart pounding in his chest, his mind racing. Did he blow it? Was his idea not good enough? But then, one of the investors stood up, clapping slowly, a broad smile across his face. The others joined in, and the applause echoed in the room. Marcus couldn't believe it. This was happening. Leonard was the first to speak. That's the kind of pitch we've been waiting for. Clear, concise, and full of passion. But it's not just about the pitch, Marcus. It's about the vision and the determination behind it. The investor who had clapped stepped forward. I like your idea. It's simple, but it's also scalable. I want to invest. Marcus stood frozen, his mind trying to process what was happening. It wasn't just a dream, it was real. After the pitch, Leonard walked over and clapped him on the back. You've got what it takes, Marcus. But now the hard work begins. This is where the real grind starts. The next few months were a blur. The investors who believed in Marcus's idea became mentors, offering guidance, resources, and introductions to potential partners. His phone became a lifeline. Calls, meetings, emails, and plans filled every corner of his day. He learned quickly that building a business wasn't just about having a great idea. It was about execution, consistency, and, most of all, persistence. Marcus found himself submerged in a new world, one he had never imagined he'd be a part of. He hired a small team to help him develop the app, which he had named Fix It. It connected people needing home repairs with skilled local handymen, allowing both parties to save time and money. The app was straightforward but designed to solve a very real problem: the difficulty of finding reliable, affordable, and quick home repair services. There were hurdles, of course. There were technical issues, bugs in the app, and a market that was reluctant to adopt something new. But Marcus didn't give up. He learned to navigate each challenge, always reminding himself of where he started and what was at stake. He kept pushing, even when things seemed impossible. There were days when he thought about giving up, when he felt the weight of the pressure, but then he would think of that cracked mirror and remind himself that this was the moment he had been working toward. In just a few months, Fix It gained traction. Word of mouth spread, and the app became a trusted resource for home repair needs. The team grew, and soon Marcus had enough money to upgrade his office space and finally trade in his old car for something more reliable. But success wasn't about the money. It was about the fact that he had built something that had a real impact on people's lives. One afternoon, after a long day of meetings, Marcus stood on the balcony of his new office, looking out over the city. He couldn't believe how far he had come. From the broken car and the tiny apartment to a growing business that was starting to make waves. But what he realized, more than anything, was that the journey wasn't over. It was only beginning. There was so much more he wanted to accomplish. That's when he got a call that would change everything. An offer came in from a major tech company, a buyout offer. They wanted to acquire Fix It. Marcus couldn't believe his ears. They were offering millions for something he had built from scratch. It was everything he had ever dreamed of, yet at the same time, it felt surreal. The decision wasn't easy, but after consulting with his mentors, Marcus realized that it wasn't just about the money. It was about what he could do next, what he could build from the foundation he had created. He declined the offer. It wasn't that he didn't need the money, but Marcus knew deep down that the real success wasn't in selling his company. It was in continuing to grow, to evolve, and to change the world in ways he hadn't even imagined yet. And so, he pushed forward. He expanded Fix It into new markets, made strategic partnerships, and continued to innovate. His brand became synonymous with quality, reliability, and trust. People started recognizing him not just as a business owner, but as a visionary. But even as the millions flowed in and the business soared to new heights, Marcus never forgot where he came from. Every morning, he would wake up and look into the same cracked mirror that had once been his source of hope. It no longer felt like a broken reflection, it felt like the beginning of something extraordinary. The ordinary man who once worked in a hardware store and dreamed of something bigger had become a multimillionaire. But more importantly, he had become a symbol of possibility. A symbol that anyone, no matter where they started, could rise above their circumstances and achieve greatness. As the sun set over the city that evening, Marcus felt the weight of his journey settle in. It wasn't the money that made him rich, it was the lessons, the resilience, and the unwavering belief that he could do it. But little did he know, his story was just getting started. The success of Fixit had catapulted Marcus into a new world. He was no longer the man working at a hardware store, he was the founder of a growing tech company, and the pressure to perform was heavier than ever. The buyout offer from the tech giant still lingered in his mind. Turning it down had been a bold move, but it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about building something that could make a lasting impact. But with growth came new challenges. Marcus quickly learned that leading a company wasn't just about having a great idea, it was about managing people, navigating corporate politics, and dealing with the unpredictable nature of the market. As Fixit expanded, he had to adapt to the new reality of being a CEO. Hiring the right people became his top priority. He surrounded himself with a diverse group of individuals, tech experts, marketers, customer service reps, and business strategists, each with their own strengths and perspectives. But managing a team wasn't always smooth sailing. There were conflicts, miscommunications, and moments when he questioned whether he had made the right decisions. In the early days, Marcus was the one who made every decision, from choosing the brand colors to deciding how the app should function. But now, as the company grew, he had to learn to delegate. It was hard. He had put so much of himself into Fixit, and trusting others with his vision felt like a leap of faith. But the more he delegated, the more he realized that a leader's strength wasn't in doing everything themselves, it was in empowering others to do their best work. As the months went by, Marcus found himself facing bigger decisions. Fixit was gaining recognition, and the competition in the app development world was fierce. Other companies had started offering similar services, and the market was becoming crowded. The initial wave of success began to plateau. But Marcus wasn't ready to let his company fade into obscurity. He needed to innovate. That's when he stumbled upon an idea that would completely reshape the future of Fixit. One evening, as he was sifting through customer feedback and analyzing usage data, he noticed a consistent request: people wanted not just home repairs but also ongoing maintenance services. Fixit had been focused on quick, on-demand repairs, but the demand for proactive maintenance services was growing. People wanted to prevent problems before they happened, not just fix them after the fact. The idea clicked. Fixit could expand its offerings to include subscription-based home maintenance services, where customers could sign up for regular checkups and inspections from trusted professionals. It was a game changer, and Marcus knew it. But implementing this new business model wasn't easy. It meant completely rethinking the company's structure, investing in new technology, and building relationships with maintenance professionals across the country. It would require resources, money, time, and energy, but Marcus was determined to make it work. He spent the next several months redesigning the app to accommodate the subscription model. He reached out to investors for additional funding, and while some were skeptical, others saw the potential and agreed to back him. Soon, Fixit began offering subscription services, and the response was overwhelming. Customers loved the idea of having regular checkups for their homes, knowing they wouldn't have to worry about unexpected repairs. It was a win-win for everyone. The subscription model created a more stable revenue stream for the company and allowed Fixit to build long-term relationships with its customers. With this new service, Marcus felt the momentum building again. The company started to grow at an even faster rate. The media began to take notice, and soon, Fixit was being featured in tech blogs, home improvement magazines, and even on national TV. Marcus was invited to speak at conferences, and his story became an inspiration to entrepreneurs everywhere. Despite the recognition and the money rolling in, Marcus remained grounded. He knew the road ahead would be filled with even more challenges. Competition was fierce, and the market was constantly changing. But what he had learned on his journey was that success wasn't about avoiding failure, it was about how you responded to it. And soon, the next challenge arrived. Fix-It's success had caught the attention of larger corporations, and one in particular, a multinational home improvement retailer, approached Marcus with a partnership offer. They wanted to integrate Fix-It into their platform, offering home maintenance services to their millions of customers. It was an opportunity that could push Fix-It to the next level, but it came with strings attached. The retailer had the power to control certain aspects of the business, and Marcus was unsure if it was the right move. For days, he wrestled with the decision. On one hand, the partnership could give Fix-It access to a vast customer base and significant resources. On the other hand, it could compromise the independence and vision he had fought so hard to protect. Leonard, the mentor who had guided him early on, reminded Marcus that sometimes opportunities come disguised as challenges. It was up to him to decide if the benefits outweighed the risks. In the end, Marcus decided to take the partnership, but he negotiated terms that would allow Fix-It to retain its autonomy. He wasn't willing to sell out just for the sake of growth. He had learned the hard way that money and success weren't worth compromising his values. The partnership proved to be a game changer. With the retailer's backing, Fix-It expanded rapidly, reaching new markets and offering services to millions of customers. Marcus watched as his small idea grew into a nationwide phenomenon. The company's valuation soared, and he became a household name in the tech and home improvement industries. But even as his wealth grew, Marcus never lost sight of what mattered most. He used his success to give back, starting a foundation that helped aspiring entrepreneurs from underprivileged backgrounds get the mentorship and resources they needed to succeed. He believed that if he could rise from nothing, others could too, and he was determined to make that happen. Marcus had gone from being the guy in a hardware store with nothing but a dream to a multi-millionaire entrepreneur who was changing the world. But his story wasn't just about the money, it was about the power of perseverance, innovation, and never giving up on the belief that anything was possible. As he looked out over the horizon, he knew that this was just the beginning. His journey had taught him that success wasn't a destination, it was a never-ending process of growth, learning, and striving to make a difference.